What's up, military millionaires? Today I'm going to be answering the question, when should you exit the military? So we're going to talk about some of the key decision times that you're going to have to decide whether to enter the military, like the three main times in your career that you're going to have to decide whether you want to exit or not, what goes into those decisions, how it's easier at some times than others, and how to utilize other opportunities like what I may be doing in the future to serve your needs. So I know that this may seem like a very cut and dry answer, like, oh, I love it, so I'll stay in, or oh, I don't love it, so I'll get out, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that. I've been going through it for 1.5 years, 2 years, and I still don't know if I have the right answer. So when should you exit the military? Right after this intro. Now, some people enter the military planning to serve their country for 20 or 30 or 40 years. Others, like myself, enter the military without a clue what the future looks like, but just to leave their hometown and see the world, right? Now, no matter what your plan looked like when you joined the military, just like the bumper sticker, shit happens. People who plan to retire from the military become disenchanted or get medically retired, and people who planned on serving a 4-year term discover that the military is their calling and serve for 20 or more years. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of the above plans. There is something wrong if you don't smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, please, thanks. But nothing wrong with any of those plans, or the lack of a plan at all, and exit timelines. But ultimately, the decision to reenlist or exit the military is one that you will have to make several times throughout your career. Some of these decisions will be a no-brainer, and others will be a constant back and forth with yourself all the way until the day that you have to make a decision, like I said, me. So personally, I joined the military because I did not know what I wanted to study at college. And I didn't have money for college, and I wanted to leave Arkansas, right? Like, seems like normal reasons. And originally I planned to serve for 4 years and then reevaluate whether to stay in or exit the military and go to college. Given that it was almost 12 years ago that I went to boot camp, probably safe to assume that I decided to stay in. So as the time for reenlistment grew closer, I knew for sure that I would be reenlisting. The first 4 years I served in the military was full of travel and adventure and an incredible sense of purpose. You could not have convinced me to exit the military for essentially any reason. I loved it. Still do. I love the Marine Corps. And by the time I re-enlisted a second time, I was nearing the end of recruiting duty, and I couldn't wait to get back to the fleet, which is the normal operational forces for those of you legs or pogues or whatever other branches call people who, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I digress. While I was on recruiting duty, combat deployment slowed to a stop. By the time I returned to the fleet, units were conducting a lot less deployment-related training and a lot more administrative training, or maintenance. Now, couple this with a few promotions, and I was not much more than a good-looking desk jockey. And, I mean, maybe? Smash the like button for a crappy dad joke? Thanks! Needless to say, the third time I had to decide whether or not to reenlist was not easy. I wrestled with the decision for months, and I even filled a full page writing out pros and cons to help make the decision. I'm pretty sure it's still in my desk somewhere. Ultimately, I decided to reenlist, hoping that it would be more like the first enlistment I had served. In fact, I actually thought we were getting ready to go to Korea at some point, so I was like, yeah, but no. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Within a year of reenlisting that third time, I had started from militarytomillionaire.com, which is the channel and everything else you guys have probably seen, and was once again torn between exiting the military or gutting it out until retirement. Now, this decision was tough, and this is the one I'm still wrestling with, because I will be, or would be, exiting the military after 13 years of service, which means that I only have 7, for those of you Marines who can't do maths, to go, right? 7 years to retirement is pretty good. So I was so close and yet so far away from retiring. Luckily, I was able to have multiple conversations with the military guy, Doug Nordman, who I met on Oahu and lived out there, so we had coffee a few times. And Doug helped me realize that exiting active duty, but finishing my last 7 years of service in the reserves might actually be my best option. And I'd never seriously looked into joining the reserves before. I had no idea what opportunities it presented. So essentially, you know, for us active duty guys basically just make fun of the reserves all the time, and yet apparently it's a good opportunity. So I'll get into that. The point of this long story is that you have a lot of options. Here are a few of my thoughts to help you make this decision easier for you as you come to each major crossroads. That being said, everybody's situation is different, and you need to ensure that you are making the best decision for you, your family, and your sanity. This has to be your decision. I'm not going to tell you what decision to make. No one else is. So after your first term, you should not overcomplicate this reenlistment. If you enjoyed what you're doing in the military, reenlisting might be the right choice. If, on the other hand, you dread going to work every day, get out of the military. It really is that simple. You aren't pot committed after 4 years. Get out of the military and pursue another career. Go to college for free and ensure that you are happy in life. The military is not for everyone, and don't try to force it to be. It's okay. No matter what anyone else says, if you did 4 years in the military, you don't like it, that's your decision. That is why it's important to get your finances in check during your first enlistment. So watch some of my other videos and read my book that's going to come out in a few months. The last thing that you want is to feel like you are stuck in the military because of the pay and benefits. You'll be just fine in the civilian world. Use your benefits, use the training and leadership skills that the military gave you, and enjoy yourself. Now, the other end of the spectrum from getting out after your first term is retirement. It's no secret that the military has one of the few remaining pension plans that is worth pursuing. Once you get past the 10-year mark in the military, it is very tempting to gut it out until retirement. Enlisted members can generally continue serving until their 30-year mark, and officers can continue until around 40 years of service, with a few exceptions on either end for those who make it to the highest leadership positions in their branch of service. Now, the overwhelming majority of service members retire as close to 20-year mark as possible. They serve for 2 decades of their adult life, and then they receive 40 to 50% of their base pay, depending on which retirement plan they fall under. I don't want to get into the new one, but it's a little bit different. Every month for the remainder of their life, they receive this amount of their paycheck. In addition, they will receive medical benefits, base access as a retiree, and several other benefits that make retiring from the military attractive, to say the least. Now, I'm not going to dig into this too much, but suffice it to say that if you're close to retirement and you have the opportunity, it's definitely a solid option. Now, it can provide you with over $30,000 a year for the duration of your life, which is great cash flow, right? Like, that's $2,500 or more a month forever, which is awesome. Now, but here's the kicker. There are other options that you have in between the 4-year mark and the retirement mark, and that's when things get complicated. When people think of exiting the military, they often think of only those 2 options: getting out, retiring. And that's all well and good, but there's a lot of us, like me, who realize somewhere after 4 and 20 years that active duty life is no longer ideal, or just may not fit your circumstances even if you enjoy it. Now, there's a number of reasons for this, and they are all acceptable. Maybe your relationship status has changed and you want to spend more time with your family and kids. Perhaps your body feels like it's falling apart. I've had several surgeries in the last few years, so you never know. Maybe you started a business. Maybe you had a windfall of cash from a relative you no longer talk to, or you won the lottery, or whatever the reason. You need to understand that you have options. Now, the intent of this section is to get your creative juices flowing, not to serve as a technical manual for how to execute these options. For that, I recommend you talk to your career planner, as the intricacies behind each option change with manpower requirements every year, every fiscal year, whatever. And really, every situation is different, and like I said, I'm not going to tell you which answer to do, I'm just going to give you some options. One of the other options is the EAS, or the end of active service, or whatever they call it, ETS, whatever they call it in other services. So one seemingly easy answer is to just EAS, as we call it in the Marine Corps, blah, 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 blah. This refers to simply exiting the military completely at the end of your contract. When you EAS, there are only a few benefits you take with you, like your GI Bill and, whatever, assuming that you left under honorable conditions, such as veteran affairs, health care benefits as well, disability pay, and you're compensated for that stuff. You got the VA loan, home burial rights, whatever. So like the basic stuff, right? Now, while that doesn't compare to the benefits that you receive when you retire from the military, it is more than sufficient. And you will also be able to take the balance of your thrift savings plan with you to include the matching portion or contribution from the DoD if you did the blended retirement. Deciding to exit the military in this manner is somewhat nerve-wracking, because you are walking away from such an incredible benefits package, a great salary, good career, and potentially your identity or your sense of purpose, but that's a whole nother video. Look, taking all of the above into consideration, if you no longer enjoy your job or you have some incredible opportunity to pursue, don't let the fear of getting out keep you from pursuing the civilian sector, right? You'll be okay. So just ensure that you have a plan and you're exiting the military for the right reasons, not just because screw this job, because you're gonna hate all kinds of things with other jobs too. So Make sure you make it a logical decision, not an emotional one. Now, if you EAS after 8 years of service, it will probably be a difficult transition because it's been such a big part of your life for so much time. But you'll be okay. Many servicemen and women have gone before you, and you'll succeed. I really don't have any concerns. I mean, you'll be all right. The military trains you they help you get out, but they train you for life. Now, the reserves. A great option to consider, and ultimately the path that I'm leaning towards pursuing, is transitioning into the reserve component of service. Now, I know we active duty often poke fun at reservists and even have some nicknames that are better left out of print or out of the video because of algorithms and stuff, like smashing the like button if you haven't done that yet. Oh, am I needy enough yet? I'm gonna be needy. Look, it's a great opportunity, the reserves. So let's use my personal situation as an example. After 12 years of active duty service in the Marine Corps, I find myself faced with the decision to re-enlist or pursue some other opportunities, like building the military millionaire community. Now, this is not an easy decision because of a few things, like A, I love being a Marine. B, this is all I've known for my entire adult life. C, there's a certain level of security in a military career. And D, there's a lot of pressure from my peers in leadership to just gut it out to 20, right? I mean, that's a reality. Now, the reality is that the reserves can be a great option if you're further along in your career, but no longer believe that active duty is the best service component for your situation. Now, as I record this video, I have not completely achieved financial freedom. My passive income averages around $3,500 to $4,500 a month, but my current expenses are hovering closer to about $5,000 a month. Now, in order for me to achieve financial freedom, I will need to increase my passive income by $500 to $1,500 a month in the next year before I exit active duty, right? So I plan on moving to the Midwest though, so cost of living is more affordable, and so that gap will be much smaller. But the point of telling you this story is not for you to judge me about my plan or for me to brag about my passive income levels. It's to show you that I have decided to exit the military and I don't have everything figured out yet. My passive income has not yet replaced my income. It doesn't cover my expenses yet, and it isn't earning a guru level 7 figures yet either. The thought of exiting active duty is scary, and I would be lying to you if I told you that it was an easy decision. Now, but I know that it's the right decision for me at this time. I thought about giving my reasons in this video, but I just decided against it because ultimately you will need to decide whether or not to re-enlist for your own reasons, and I don't want to muddy the waters with my personal reasons. So here's some of the benefits with the reserves. If you have decided that remaining on active duty until retirement isn't in the cards, the reserves can be a much better plan than simply exiting the military. The reserves offer a lot of benefits that people don't understand, and I believe it to be a great way to transition out of the military. The first one is that there's no contract. So the best thing about this option is that you can do it without signing another contract. Yeah, you heard that correctly. It's possible to transition into the reserves, and then if you really don't like it, or you decide that you should get out of the military completely, you can simply change your mind and exit the reserves. Once you're completely out of the reserves, it's much harder to get back in the military. So I would always recommend that this method of stepping out of alpha active duty without cutting ties completely whenever possible. Now, there's reactivation. There is a distinct possibility that you will miss the military when you get out. No matter how much you think this might not be true now, I'm here to tell you it is. As a recruiter, we used to get people in our office all the time asking about the process to get back into the Marine Corps. So I'd be willing to bet that we probably had more walk-ins who were prior service than we did eligible high school students walking in. That doesn't even account for the amount of people who decided to join another branch of service after leaving the Marines, right? So a perk of transitioning to the reserves as opposed to exiting the military completely is that it allows you the opportunity to work your way back onto active duty if you would like. For example, there always appear to be a shortage of Marine Corps recruiters. A lot of them like to go and get in trouble, but you know, that's neither here nor there. There's a program called Extended Active Duty, or EAD, recruiting. This program allows reservists to go back on active duty as a recruiter, with the opportunity to become a career recruiter and be right back on active duty again, assuming they are successful. Now, there are other ways to get back onto active duty. Some of them require painstakingly long processes, but it is possible. So on one hand, that's a great benefit because it gives you a safety net, and in the chance that you regret exiting the military, you can always try to come back in. On the other hand, it also gives you a safety net, which means subconsciously failure might be an option in your heads. I kind of like the idea of burning the ships like Hernan Cortez did in 1519. So in essence, if you go all in on something and you don't give yourself the option of failure, your odds of success increase because you'll find a way, because you don't have another option. All right, the reserves, you still get your pension. So for somebody like me who was already served for 12 years in the Marine Corps, the thought of losing out on a pension is pretty nerve-wracking. So luckily, if you finish out on a 12-year career in the reserves, you still receive that pension. Now, I'm not going to dig into all of the intricacies of how the pension works in the reserves, but here's a 5,000-foot view just so that you kind of understand what's going on here. You will receive your pension, but not until you turn 60, minus any time spent in a qualifying combat zone. For example, I spent 8 months in Afghanistan, so I would begin receiving my pension when I am 59 years and 4 months of age. Now, your pension is determined based on the total amount of points you earned in the reserves, multiplied by the amount of basic pay you would receive in the pay grade you retired at. If you had served 30 years in service, multiplied by the amount of basic pay you would receive in the pay grade you retire at if you'd served 30 years of service. Now, the formula is more complicated than that, so there's an article on the military guide all about the reserve retirement calculator. Recommend you check it out. But if you retired from the reserves as an E8 with 20 years of service, your pay would be calculated as an E8 who served 30 years of service multiplied by the total points you accumulate throughout your career. Every day that you served on active duty is 1 point, and then you can still earn multiple points on drill weekends, pulling funeral detail, completing military education, yada yada. Ultimately, the reserves pension is calculated much differently, but it is possible for you to earn a decent pension. So when I ran the numbers, my reserve pension was only going to be about $500 to $750 a month lower than my active duty pension. Granted, the biggest difference is that on active duty, your pension starts, you begin collecting your pension almost immediately, and as a reservist, I don't get it till I'm like 60. So there's a big gap there, so it's definitely a lot less money. But if you've got a lot of stuff going on, you don't necessarily need the pension. Who cares? All right, so medical benefits. Medical insurance is a large expense that many service members fail to budget for. But if you join the reserves, you will be eligible for TRICARE Reserve Select for only $44.17 a month for single guy, girl, or for $228.27 a month for a member in their family. Now, obviously there are additional co-pays that you'll be on the hook for, but this is much more affordable than most civilian medical plans, so still better than nothing. So you get to do a lot of the fun stuff and less of the bullshit in the reserves, right? So from what I've been told, in the reserves you're able to do more of the fun stuff like ranges, training, exercises, and less of the day-to-day BS. Because of the limited time you have for training, it requires you to focus on the important stuff, which is generally more of the fun stuff. Also, you can volunteer for exercises, deployments, or reserve billets around the world, but you won't usually get voluntold for stuff, for training exercises, as much as you would on active duty anyway, unless there's something kicking off, right? Next option is a branch of service change. So if none of the reasons, of these above reasons, before reasons, whatever, were compelling enough for you to join the reserves, you can always join another branch of service if you're a traitor. All right, joking about that. Look, it's quite common for people to exit the military and then decide to go into another branch of service. I know several people who have served in the Marine Corps and the Army, for example. Every branch of service has their own personality, and it is important for you to find the one that matches with you. All right, this is your decision. I was going to mention some of the common reasons people choose to exit the military or not, but I want this to be 100% your decision. Nobody can make this decision for you, so do your research and ask lots of questions. Write out pros and cons, think long and hard before exiting the military. It is a lot easier to get out of the military than it is to get back in the military, believe me. So ultimately it's up to you. Make sure that you're happy with whatever decision you make, and do not let other people talk you into staying because you're so close. Serving in the military is more than a job, it's a calling. And if you no longer enjoy your career or want to serve in the military, please don't. All right, hope this was helpful for some of you. Make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, whatever order you want to do that in. Click the little bell for notifications, and let me know what other content you want to see. If you want more military content, tell me what you want me to answer in the comments, and I'd be happy to talk to you guys about it.